Uh, Taiwan
大陆的配
Furious
偶也是近期被推上风口浪尖。
told me to
Originally, the
leave for
immigration
shamelessly
department told
promoting
me that
Taiwan
because I have
invasion.
children for humanitarian reasons, after I received the notice of the termination of the detention order, I could apply for family reunification and stay in Taiwan for 6 months to be with my children. But last night, I saw a video by Ba Zhong urging the immigration department to hurry up and deport me, or they would sue the department for dereliction of duty. However, today, March 15th, the Immigration Department sent an officer to deliver the documents. Since I wasn't available to sign for the documents, the officer called us and told us there's been a new decision. The termination of the detention order I received earlier is now invalid because of today's document. They're asking me to leave within 10 days or they will forcibly deport me. This is a video from Yaya in Taiwan, a popular influencer who runs channels on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. She has over 400,000 followers, and she's been investigated by Taiwan's immigration department for promoting China's military reunification and claiming that Taiwan will become a ruin. As a
Uh,
result, her family reunion residence permit was cancelled, and she has been ordered to leave Taiwan. This issue has garnered significant attention. What we just heard was her description on March 15th of receiving the Taiwan Immigration Department's notice and being told to leave the country. Now,
so
let's take a look at how she
she
previously called for
decided
military
to
unification of
talk
Taiwan.
badly about the government, and now she's getting deported.
As long as the mainland doesn't show mercy to fellow countrymen and bombs Taiwan to the death, in half an hour it would basically be a ruin, and our Taiwanese people will be the cannon fodder. If you've been away from home too long and won't listen to good advice, do you have to be hit with a golden stick to make you come back? In the end, you'll just cry and go home immediately. Isn't that amphibious assault? Yaya in Taiwan often posts videos promoting Taiwan's reunification with China, making statements like Taiwan is a part of China, even
Oh,
involving her daughter in videos to openly support China's
interesting.
military actions. Mommy, look, the Fujian ship has set sail. Then the video shows footage of the Chinese propaganda about the Fujian ship. Wow, so cool. Right, Mommy.
So
Daddy's
that's why.
hometown is Fujian,
So
right?
you have
Yes.
an
Ha,
issue
then
where
I'm
you
also a
have
Fujian
obviously
Taiwanese.
you have people who want to reunify with China and Taiwan, and then you have some people who want to be independent from China. And so you have that one guy saying, "Hey, this chick is being shady."
Nice to meet
He's
you.
promoting
Then the daughter
communism
starts singing a
in
song
a
promoting the
sense.
Chinese Fujian ship. Yaya in Taiwan also filmed her daughter, Yi Yi, using Taiwanese Kingman liquor to pay respects to the Chinese Communist Party leader Mao Zedong. We
Oh,
won't list all the
Mao.
details here.
Oh
On March
no,
16th,
Mao.
during a press
The
conference for
Maozi.
Taiwan's new Immigrant Empowerment
Maozi
Development Information
Dongzi.
Network,
Huh?
Deputy Director General of the Immigration Department, Qian Jiancheng, stated that due to Liu's promotion of military unification, which could pose a threat to national security and social stability, the Immigration Department has ordered Liu to comply with the deadline for leaving the country. The final deadline would be March 24th. If she does not leave by then, deportation will be carried out. After being fined, Yaya changed her attitude and started speaking positively about Taiwan, especially in a video released on March 15th.
So she had to
健保
change her
卡就是
tune while
从
living
生小孩开
in
始。
Taiwan, yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Liu Zhenya, a spouse from mainland China. The first time I used Taiwan's health insurance card was when I gave birth. I deeply felt the care and convenience of the healthcare system here. Taiwan's health insurance system is highly praised internationally, and after personally experiencing, I'm even more convinced of this. Regarding my parents, they have visited Taiwan twice. They were deeply impressed by the local customs and found Taiwanese people to be very friendly and polite. After returning to mainland China, they often tell their friends and family about the beauty of Taiwan. This is what she said after being ordered to leave the country, her farewell to Taiwan. It sounds quite normal, but
Well, I mean, she wanted the invasion of Taiwan. Anyways, I'm not gonna go through this whole China Observer, but if you want to check out more China Observer, they basically just go through all the Asian countries that have Chinese um influence, basically, and they talk about the dynamics of those influences within those other spheres, right? What do we got? Eric Weinstein won't stop embarrassing himself. What time is it? 12?
Your feelings, let's say, moderated by the fact that so many tech.
I am getting so much abuse out there.
Yeah.
From people on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. I'm just like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends who you fought shoulder to shoulder with.
Are your feelings, let's say, moderated by the fact that so many tech bros are now involved in this? Because these are not, say,
They're not tech bros. They were my friends.
well, okay. So, but that's what I mean. So you know a lot of these.
Yeah, but they just changed. Like, it was crazy how many of them have just changed. I didn't know how shallow this was.
All right, so it looks like Eric Weinstein is having a tough time once again. This guy is always.
I
going
didn't
through
know how
something.
shallow
He
it
loves to
was.
whine.
When
I mean,
all
it's
you
literally
want
in
is
his
money.
name, so I guess we shouldn't be that surprised. But now his problem is people are being too mean to him on Twitter, and none of his friends will stick up for him. And he also feels like he's been left behind by Trump and his supporters. Like, he's all disappointed that Trump never reaches out to him to ask him for help with his administration. Like, Eric thinks he deserves to be part of Trump's team because he's been fighting woke culture longer than everybody else. That's how far up his own ass this guy is.
Trump could have chosen a lot of people, but he didn't. Right? So it's like, what? Yeah, he's just jealous.
Like, on this Dave Rubin
Trump shoulda
podcast,
picked
Eric
me.
keeps talking about how he's been fighting
I'm
a
the
war
best
for decades,
advocate.
and he feels like he's being disrespected now because all these tech guys who jumped on the Trump train at the last second are getting more attention than him.
That I just sat through a bunch of years of being asked to kiss the woke ring and to bend the knee to the woke and all this kind of nonsense. I've been fighting this war at some levels since the late 80s, so it's like 35 years. Because quite honestly, I was on this train a long time before Trump ever boarded. And this idea that a bunch of, in particular, like the tech right, they just jumped on this thing 4 seconds ago, and now they're acting like, they've been here the whole time. It's incredibly disrespectful. I'll be entirely honest. One of the most off-putting things I ever heard in my life is that when you look at people who've been fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call? Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement. My endorsement mattered. Like, when they called Bobby said, I have things that I want. Yeah. I had things that I wanted to know. What are you going to do about universities? What are you going to do about science?
Yeah, so he's definitely bitter about all these people who got positions from Trump while he's being left out. It's so funny. Like, Eric thought he was part of Trump's team and they would be consulting with him, but they really want nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And you could tell he was getting frustrated about it leading up to the election because he kept complaining about it on Twitter. Like, he said, I'm failing this election. I tried, but I simply failed. I cannot work within these concepts. My world, my country, my America is not on the ballot. And of course, everybody in the comments was roasting him. Even Dave Rubin's like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but how are you not voting for Trump? And then after the election, Eric posted another tweet where he said, for whatever reason, the campaign doesn't reach out much. I don't know why, but this is an observation, so I don't want to take crap for observing it. And again, people in the comments and some of his friends, I'm sure, were like, dude, the world doesn't revolve around you. Like, you'd even endorse Trump. Remember a couple weeks ago, you said he failed this election. So you'd think Eric would get the hint, but of course not. This will never stop him. And he's still complaining about it. It's hilarious. Like, these Weinstein brothers have no shame. Like, they'll never realize how embarrassing the shit they do is because their egos are just so big. I mean, if you remember last year, his brother Brett went on Rogan's podcast and admitted that Elon had to block him because he wouldn't stop annoying him. Like, he kept messaging Elon because his Twitter account wasn't trending enough. And Elon responded and said, stop spamming me,
investors,
and then blocked
right?
him,
Capital
which is pretty
investor.
embarrassing. Like, you'd think, why would Brett want to admit this? But the best part is Brett's ego is so big, he'd even understand what was going on. He was all confused about it. And he's like, why would he say, stop spamming me? Why would he block me? He can't even believe that Elon wouldn't want to spend his time listening to him complain about his Twitter account. So he thought it must be a mistake. Like, he was so confused about it. And I'm sure he lost a lot of sleep over it. Elon
he's the
for
one.
some of these people, that's like
he's
the end
the
of the world.
dark energy
And I
guy.
started to tell him about
that's
this
right.
trend stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He blocked me. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't think he's on the other team. I don't think...
He blocked you?
Yes. He blocked me, and I'm blocked to this day, which seems strange. It could be that he's forgotten that he's done it, but I don't think so.
Why would he block you?
I have no idea. It makes no sense. The last thing he said was, "Stop spamming me," which was very strange for a guy who said he wanted to have another meeting. Right?
How many messages were you sending him?
3 or 4.
Stop spamming me.
It was very strange. But
Yeah, I wonder what "stop spamming me" could mean. I mean, these brothers are just hilarious. Like, they think the whole world revolves around them, and everything they do is so important and interesting. Like, one time on Rogan's podcast, he tried asking Eric how long he'd been playing the guitar for, which I'm sure he immediately regretted because Eric tried giving the most insufferable response possible, which even Joe had to call him out on.
What do you mean that you didn't know you're supposed to play with a
Dude,
pick?
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And
How'd you learn how to do this?
No, wait,
hang out in a
what?
room alone. It's sort of dark and lonely. But
Really?
Yeah.
When did you learn this?
This is part of the thing. I do a bunch of things that
I
don't
do
with
about
other
yeah.
people.
So
I
he does
just
all.
learn shit on my
Right.
own.
See,
When
this
did
is the
you-
reason why a lot of people don't like Eric Weinstein because he sounds like a fucking. He
Learn
sounds
this.
like a
How
lot.
long ago?
I don't even know. Some of it in the last year.
But when did you start playing guitar? You're being coy.
No,
I don't
I've had a
I
guitar.
don't like it. I'm gonna call you out on this. I don't like it.
Okay.
Very
I've
uncomfortable.
had a guitar since I was.
And somehow that wasn't even close to the most embarrassing moment from that episode. Like, that's when he felt like he needed to prove to Tim Dillon that he's a real intellectual. So he went on Joe's podcast to try to show the world his life's work, and he completely bombed. It was rough. And I covered that on Patreon if you're interested. But Eric always feels like he deserves all this recognition, like with Trump. You know, he believes Trump owes him something because he fought back against purple-haired trans people. And it seems like he hasn't been happy with Trump's
Yes, you
presidency,
fought
only
the
because he's not part of
purple-haired
it.
trans
You know, he
people
thinks
on
just
the
because he's not involved,
interwebs.
then that means it's not going to go well. And it's so funny. He's complaining about how he's left out of the loop. And he's like, I've never been invited to Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what's going on. Nobody told me the plan. I mean, it's just pathetic. You know, it seems like he thought once Trump got in office, people would start briefing him on everything happening and get his advice on it, even though he didn't even vote for Trump. So I don't know how he expected that. And he's complaining about all this to Dave Rubin, who's closer to Trump's administration and has been to Mar-a-Lago, which Eric's probably jealous about. And it sounds like he wishes Dave and some of his other friends in politics would call him more to tell him what's going on behind the scenes.
I have no idea from outside whether this is as crazy as it looks, whether there's method to the madness. I understand some of it. I don't understand other. And you know, the thing that I keep getting from so many people who do have connections, like, I haven't been to Mar-a-Lago. You've been to Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what's going on inside of this thing. So everybody who's outside of this,
It's very golden. It's very
it's
gaudy.
not that. The issue is, what's the plan? If you can't pick up the phone to call your own friends who fought the same war with you and say, look,
Oh, he wants to be in on the plan, right? Because, yeah, it is interesting because they. I mean, I mean, he's obviously running on all the campaign stuff, but there's obviously more to it than just the campaign stuff.
I need you to keep quiet about this. We need your help on that. What are you concerned about? There just isn't any of that.
So, but that's what I mean. So you know a lot of these.
Yeah, but they just changed. Like, it was crazy how many of them have just changed.
Are you sure they just changed, or they don't want you in the circle because they're doing, or they don't have the same vision?
2 years ago, they were like pro-science. I didn't know how shallow this
Pro-science? What? Aren't they pro-science? No, wait, I'm confused.
was. Very strange to find out from Vivek Ramaswamy that we need to worry about India and China in mathematics. When, my point is you need to worry about the French. The French are the world champions of mathematics.
I mean, regardless of whoever it is, you should be, right? You should be careful of both.
These people don't know things, and they don't know what they don't know, and they don't ask.
So if you got a call and they said, hey,
How can I help? It's like, do you guys know how this thing works or runs? Do you care? Do you just want to move fast and break things? You tell me. If you want to move fast and break things and you want a map of where things are,
right.
I don't need a job.
So he's getting desperate, and he's even starting to criticize Trump and the MAGA movement a little bit, which is bold. I think Joe Rogan and Peter Thiel might have to put him in check, Or maybe just to keep him happy, Trump could give him some pointless job to do, or he could give him an honorary position. You know, like he did with that kid who's fighting brain cancer. That was a really nice moment. Maybe Trump could do that for Eric. Like, get on him for fighting the woke mind virus, and Eric could finally get the credit he thinks he deserves.
Up.
That'd be the funniest shit ever. I mean, when Eric saw this, he's probably thinking, good for him. I'm glad he got some recognition, but it seems a little unfair. You know, I've been fighting woke culture for almost 30 years.
Yeah, I don't... God, this is... Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I guess he just feels left out, right? Yeah, but jeez. God damn it. This is so mean. This is so fucking mean.
Neither of these groups left in the cemetery
by Nick Fuentes fans, and apparently his friends aren't sticking up for him enough on there.
We have a situation in which anti-Semitism and other forms of bigotry are tolerated by both the left and the right to get votes. And if either of these groups would just kick out bigots like the Groypers or, you know, the pro-Hamas left.
On the right, I don't see Trump really placating those people. I don't think he's...
It's not a question of placating. It's a question of you actually have to call this stuff out. What I see is dual signaling. Mm-hmm. I see huge signaling, hey, we're with Israel, we're with the Jews, we're on the side of good against evil. And I see this idea of we're also going to signal to people who harbor very bad suspicions, particularly the Groyper movement. Look, I don't want this to become exclusively Jewish, but it's just, I am getting so much abuse out there.
Yeah.
From people on the right, and nobody.
I'm getting so much abuse out there from the people. Who are you talking about?
Fought shoulder to shoulder with.
So I guess he thinks his friends aren't defensive enough of him. Like, this is just pathetic. And he's acting like he just got back from battle. I mean, it's like how Joe always says comedians are the last line of defense. These people.
Oh, I just got back from the Twitter battles. I need your help. I need you. We need to go on the Twitter crusade. Dude, get the fuck out of here.
And just because he does a podcast and fights woke culture, that doesn't mean he has direct access to the president. So this has got to hurt his ego. Just like when Tim Dillon roasted him, I think he's still kind of recovering from that. But if you want to hear more about that, make sure you check out my Patreon account. There's over 120 exclusive videos on there, and I post every week. So if you like the channel and want more content like this, there'll be a link in the description. Make sure you check it out.
There it is. Apparently they're still crying. Brett and Eric Weinstein brothers in fraudulence. Well, didn't they also invest in cryptocurrency? Or I think he did, at least. With Sam Bankman-Fried and shit. Alright, what time is it? Iconic. What people feel when you decide to walk away. Carl Jung, sorry. Psychologist.
What do you think would happen if, on any given day, you simply left?
If I just simply left. That'd be a great weight off my shoulders. No more worries.
I'm not talking about physically disappearing, but about disconnecting. Letting go of those invisible threads that tie you to others.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if you decided to step away? Not out of hatred, not out of resentment, but simply out of the need to be with yourself. Most people don't understand it, but distance has a strange, almost unsettling power. It's as if moving out of their orbit breaks a delicate balance. It's not just about missing you. It goes beyond that. It's something much darker, deeper, something that touches their most sensitive fibers. Because when you decide to step away, you leave a void, and voids are always uncomfortable.
No, you must...
Not because of what's missing.
No, you must accept the void. You don't know.
But because of what they reveal. And
the
here's
void
the
is your
intriguing
friend.
part.
You must
Your
embrace
absence
the void.
doesn't hurt because of what you were to them, but because of what they can no longer project onto you. Make no mistake, people don't see you as you are. They see you as they need you to be.
No, don't be like
that.
that.
Their insecurities,
No.
their hidden desires, their
Don't say that people are just trying to use you.
When you decide to step
don't
away,
do that.
they're not left looking at the gap you left. They're left confronting the shattered reflection you used to hold up. Think about it.
No, I
How
don't
many
wanna
times have you been told you're important, that they need you,
No,
that
don't
they
do
couldn't
this.
do this or
No.
that without you? But deep down, isn't it curious how those words always seem to be more about them than about you? When you distance yourself, you shatter that illusion, and then they begin to feel something they can't explain. It's discomfort, it's anger, it's guilt, it's fear. But most of all, it's a question they don't dare to ask. What's left of me?
No, it kind
if
of
you're no
reminds me
longer
of
there?
Hassan and his
It's
terroristic
unsettling,
natures.
isn't it?
Or
To
tendencies,
think that
sorry.
someone might depend on you, not out of love, not out of a genuine connection, but because you are the support for something they don't
Or
want to face in
Destiny's
themselves.
terroristic tendencies.
And yet, that is the reality of many human relationships. We are mirrors, but we are also crutches. When you decide to let go, when you decide to step away, you force others to wobble, to face a truth they were trying to ignore. Their emotional dependence wasn't on you, but on the idea of you. And then comes the real mystery.
Sounds like
What
Hassan
do they
and
actually
Asmongold.
feel when you're no
Hassan
longer there?
just keeps thinking
Some will
about
say
Asmongold.
sadness, others disappointment. Some might even fill themselves with resentment. But the truth is, they don't know. Because the void you leave has no shape. It's not a pain they can identify. It's not a wound they can heal. It's something more visceral, more primal. It's the echo of what they never wanted to admit. What goes on in their minds when you decide to leave? What shadows do you awaken in them? And more importantly, why does that decision to step away seem to hold so much power? Why does it create so much noise in their souls?
I don't know.
Today, we're not going to talk about the easy stuff. We're not staying on the
Oh
surface.
no, not the easy
going to
stuff. But
explore
the
what
easy
really
stuff is the
happens when
easy
you
stuff to
decide to step
understand. Why do we
away.
got to talk about hard
What
things?
others feel, what they don't dare to
Right,
say,
what
they try to hide.
Why do we
And
got to
above
make all these hard
why
things?
that act, which seems so simple, has the ability to lay bare the darkest corners of their psychology. Get ready,
why do we-
because this won't be a comfortable
why do we
journey.
gotta do all these hard
There are no easy answers here, no truths that won't
We
make you
gotta do all
uneasy.
these hard things. I don't
This is a journey
understand.
into the depths of human emotions, into the zones most
understand.
prefer to avoid. But if you're here, it's because something within you already knows. Stepping away doesn't just transform your life. It shakes the world of those who don't know how to exist without you. And that's the real mystery we're going to unravel.
No way.
When you decide to step away, something curious happens. People start to reconstruct a narrative about you, but that narrative isn't about who you really are. It's about who you were in their lives and, more importantly, about what they lose with your absence. It's as if they try to fill the void with versions of you that you don't even recognize. They begin to interpret you,
I'm sorry.
analyze you from afar, looking for signs, patterns, anything to help them explain your decision.
Yeah, I've just been working on
But
a
here's
bunch
the
of
trick. What they're really seeking isn't to understand you,
for
but to justify
a
themselves.
project.
Your absence forces them to confront a question they never wanted to ask. How much of my emotional stability depended on this person? And that question, for many, is unbearable.
Oh, I don't
Because
think...
in their quest to project strength, independence, and self-sufficiency, they are forced to acknowledge something deeply human, but also deeply uncomfortable. They depended on you more than they were willing to admit. And you know what happens next?
I didn't hook up my
They start to
drawing yet.
transform their perception of you. Not because you've changed, but because they need to construct a version of your departure that's bearable for them. Some idealize you, as if your absence makes you more valuable than you already were. Others, on the other hand, demonize you. They convince themselves that your leaving was a selfish act, even a betrayal. Because deep down, it's easier to blame you than to admit that your decision destabilized them. The fascinating part is how these emotions don't emerge uniformly. People react in completely different ways depending on what you represented in their lives.
I'm just being an
For
asshole.
some, your absence is like an open wound. For others, it's a wound they thought was healed, but that your distance reopens. And for a few, it's a mirror that reflects their greatest fear: being alone with themselves. This is where the real complexity lies. It's not just that others react, it's how those reactions change over time. At first, there may be anger or confusion, but as time passes, the absence becomes much more abstract. They begin to wonder if they really knew you, or if they were merely projecting onto you what they wanted to see. And that doubt is what can consume them. Because your departure isn't just physical, it's symbolic. It represents a change in a dynamic they didn't control, and loss of control always generates anxiety. You know what's most ironic? That many times people don't even understand why your decision affects them so much.
Correct.
In their minds, you weren't that crucial. You didn't occupy such a big place. But your departure reveals that you occupied more space than they were willing to admit.
Correct.
It's as if your absence illuminates the cracks in their emotional structure, the ones they
loves
always
talking about
tried to
terrorist
hide.
shit all the time.
And what they feel isn't about you. It's about what your distance forces them to confront. There's something profoundly unsettling about how your stepping away can become a trial by fire for the relationships you leave behind. Often, your absence lays bare an uncomfortable truth: that many human connections aren't based on unconditional love or mutual respect, but on conveniences, power dynamics, and unspoken needs. And when you decide to break those dynamics, people don't just lose a person. They lose a support system, a point of reference, a balance that you unknowingly helped maintain. So, here comes the question no one wants to ask. What's left of them when you're no longer there? For some, the answer is simple. They move on, find other connections, adapt their lives to your absence. But for others, your departure leaves a void they don't know how to fill, because your presence unwittingly had become the anchor for something much bigger, something that starts to crumble without you. And the most fascinating part is how, in the end, this experience of stepping away impacts both sides. It's not just that they feel your absence, you also feel the consequences of your decision. But that's another story. Today, we're focusing on them, on what your departure triggers in their minds, their hearts, their lives. And believe me, that impact is much deeper than it seems on the surface. When you decide to step away, you don't just initiate a change in others' lives, you also become a catalyst for emotions they didn't even know they had. It's curious, but your absence is like a silent thunderclap. It doesn't make noise at first, but it leaves the ground trembling beneath their feet. In that moment, even if they don't say it, even if they don't admit it, an internal process begins that they themselves can't stop. The initial reaction is usually denial. They're busy, it's just temporary, they'll come back. They convince themselves that your absence doesn't mean anything, that it's fleeting. But while they try to cling to that idea,
my mic went out.
Something begins to unsettle
The seeds
them.
of doubt is coming.
Deep down, they know something has changed. And that uncertainty, that why, without an answer, becomes a seed of doubt that grows slowly. Did they do something
I didn't,
wrong?
look, I
Were they
didn't
too
pre-watch,
demanding?
okay? I already...
Did they fail to value you enough? The questions invade them, and with them comes anxiety. But there's something even more fascinating. Your departure forces them to recalibrate their identity. Because when you spend time with someone, your energy, your presence intertwines with theirs. You become a part of their life,
Basically,
even if
the
it was
chemistry,
never something explicit. So when you step
making
away, they
relationships
don't just
in a
lose
sense.
your presence, they lose a part of who they
Connections.
were with you. And rebuilding that part isn't easy. Suddenly, they have to figure out who they are without you. And here's where something almost poetic happens. They start to remember you, but not as you really were, but as they need to remember you. Each person creates a version of you that fits their narrative,
Correct.
their pain, their
So
understanding
basically,
of
all
why
the
you're no
past
longer
interactions you've had with
Some idealize
certain
you.
people in your
They were so
lifetime,
perfect,
whether
so
it was at
necessary,
school
and
or
I didn't
passing
know how to
by,
value
right?
them. Others demonize you. They only left because they never really cared. And a few, the bravest, face the truth. Maybe I never understood what they needed. It's at
Don't
this
run
point
from
that
your
the intrigue
problems.
reaches
It's
its
not
peak,
good.
because while they wrestle with their emotions, you, from a distance, become an enigma. They wonder what you're doing, what you're thinking, if you miss them.
You shut up. You think
And
about
that
yourself.
uncertainty is like a loose thread they can't stop pulling. But what truly unsettles them isn't the lack of answers. It's the lack of control. Because by stepping away, you broke a pattern, and broken patterns always create chaos.
No.
You know
Don't,
what's the irony of all
don't
this?
make the sign
that
be
while
known.
they rebuild their world without you,
Don't see
you're
the
also going through your
signs.
own process. Because the act of stepping away
Don't
isn't
see the
simple.
signs that you're not ready
It's not
for.
just taking physical or emotional distance. It's an act of courage. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I need space for myself, even if it means others won't understand. And that, though necessary, can be terrifying. And
Hey,
here's
you
where
tell
I want
those
to
people,
pause for a
shut
moment.
up.
Because if you've read this far,
Tell them they need
I
to
know
find
something
Jesus.
about this resonates with you. Maybe you've stepped away from someone. Maybe you felt something crumble around you because of your decision. Or maybe, on the contrary, someone stepped away from you, and you're trying to understand why. Whatever your situation, I invite you to reflect. How much of your inner peace depends on
not that
others?
word reflect.
And how much are you willing to let go to find that peace?
Oh no.
I want you to leave a comment with this phrase.
No.
The void doesn't define me,
No.
it frees me.
No.
Write it if you feel this message has
that's
touched
actually
you.
a good one.
If you've seen yourself reflected in any part of these words. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel.
And there you have
Because here we talk about the things others avoid, the topics that make us uncomfortable but transform us. If you want to keep
why would you
exploring
do
the
such a
depths of
thing?
the human
Why would you
mind,
talk
this
about
is your place.
self-reflection?
But don't leave
Why would
yet.
you talk
We're
about
not
the
done.
psychosis of the human
Because
mind?
there's one more thing
Why
I want
would
you to
why?
understand. Your decision to step away, while painful for some, can also be the start of their own growth. Because sometimes the best way to help someone isn't by staying, but by showing them they can move forward on their own.
Correct.
And that, even if they don't see it at first, might be the greatest gift you give them. So stay until the end, because what comes next isn't just a reflection.
No.
It's a revelation.
No, not a
One
revelation.
that could change the way you see
No.
your relationships, your
I
decisions,
don't want it.
and above all,
I don't
yourself.
want change. I don't want to see the void. I don't want to stare into it and make it look back at me. No. Anyways. Yeah. Carl Jung. Psychotic. The more people I meet, the more I love my dog. Yeah, the more people I meet, the more animals I love. I walked away from many people who used me and were never there when I needed them. Needed a friend, sorry. Amazing how predictable toxic people are. Oh yeah. It made them real nervous, trying to creep back in, and I kept silent. I don't respond. My silence makes them nervous. They now realize what they lost. I realized I lost nothing of value. Yeah. The art of letting go is one of the most beautiful and painful things to learn. Right? It's the stages of grief, basically. Right? The void doesn't define me, it frees. Stare back. Anyways. That is Carl Jung, psychologist, professor, teacher. Basically wrote half of the things in psychology. Right, a lot of the psychologists, or a lot of the people who survived, like back then through, right, the World War times and right the Cold War and shit. You know, a lot of those people were great thinkers, and they were fucking tormented a lot because some of them went to jail. And some of them had to deal with being jailed for just their thoughts and, right, beliefs. Anyways. I got it on Carl Jung. And then I guess we'll take a look at this last one, the megachurch. Well, we had this kind of forgiveness. We'll take a gander at this.
The former pastor of a Texas megachurch has now been indicted on felony child abuse charges stemming from allegations in the 80s. It is a wild turn for Robert Preston Morris, and we are going to delve into the story, the history, the accusations, and the potential evidence. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, let's talk about Robert Preston Morris, the 63-year-old former pastor of Gateway Church out in Dallas. Now, this is described as a megachurch that was founded in 2000 by Morris and his wife, and with reportedly
so like those evangelists
reports that more than 100,000
ask you a bunch of money and then they go on like private jets and talk about demonic shit.
TV program that aired in over 190 countries.
I forgot what that one dude's name was.
7,000 cities. A now defunct YouTube page that had 80,000 subscribers. And get this, he was on President Donald Trump's spiritual advisory board during his 2016 campaign. This is all per reporting from USA Today. So needless to say, Mr. Morris was a big deal in the religious community. But now, he has been indicted in Oklahoma on 5 felony counts of lewd or indecent acts to a child.
Lewd or indecent acts to a child.
Date back to on or about December 25th, 1982
You're a fucking weirdo
January
and a pedophile.
25th, 1983, and all relate to an unidentified alleged female victim
And what
known as
chipper we
CC
get
in
going?
the indictment, who was 12 to 13 years old when this happened. And the felonies are described as intentionally looking upon or touching or feeling the body or private parts of this child. Now, Morris turned himself into authorities out in Oklahoma yesterday after a warrant for his arrest was issued. He was reportedly booked into the Osage County Jail. Bond was set at $50,000, and he had to surrender his passport. The timing of this is key, because it was last year when Morris resigned as a pastor after a woman came forward alleging he sexually abused her when she was 12 back in the 80s. So it is possible, and very likely, that we are talking about the same person here. According to WFAA ABC 8, that woman was identified as Cindy Clemishire. In fact, after the indictment, Clemishire released the following
gotta get that wood
After
chipper
almost
going,
43
I guess.
years, the law has finally caught up with Robert Morris for the horrific crimes he committed against me as a child. Now it is time for the legal system to hold him accountable. My family and I are deeply grateful to the authorities who have worked tirelessly to make this day possible and remain hopeful that justice will ultimately prevail. I want to bring on right now David Ring, civil trial attorney who is recognized as one of the leading victim advocate lawyers in the nation for his work representing survivors of sexual abuse and assault. David, so good to have you on as we talk about these allegations. So if we can assume that Clemishire's allegations make up this criminal indictment, and there is ample proof to assert that, how often do we actually see this happen? In other words, public allegations turn into a criminal case, let alone allegations from over 40 years ago?
Jesse, it happens. Now, it doesn't happen frequently, but it happens when a victim has kind of hit a wall going to law enforcement or trying to get the case, publicly recognized. And so what they do is they, like this victim did, and we can call her Cindy. She's come out and made herself public. But this victim, Cindy, decided, hey, she's going to come forward, go public with the allegations, and see what happens. And we'll get to this, I'm sure. But the very interesting part of this is that when she did that, she was under the belief that there was no way there could be a criminal case because the statute had lapsed. Hey, it worked out for her. She came forward, she made public allegations, and that spurred on some action by the Attorney General in Oklahoma to figure out a way to bring criminal charges.
So you make a ton of good points I want to get into, including the charges, including what you would think is a potential statute of limitations issue, really important. Why do you think, first, let's get into this. Why do you think he turned himself in? Why do you think he surrendered himself? The first thing I thought was, did he, right? The idea that he turned himself into New York authorities, hoping, that maybe he would get bond and he could be on house arrest. Obviously, that was a federal case, very different. But I have to imagine that is why a criminal defendant surrenders themselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, he could put up a fight and say, I'm not going to surrender. And then what happens? They come after him in Texas or wherever he's at, and they arrest him there, and then he's extradited to Oklahoma where these charges are pending. And really all it does is he avoids the inevitable for a few
I mean, it
weeks
just
or months.
causes problems.
And so I think
right?
most criminal defense lawyers will tell their client, hey, this is inevitable. Go surrender, get bonded out, and then, you can come back to Texas, and then we'll deal with the charges.
By the way,
I'm on audio mode, but your hair is
Megyn
still.
Kelly has a
I
truly
hate you.
gripping and incredible
I'm gonna ban
investigative
you.
documentary out on our YouTube right now. The disappearance of baby
And
Lisa Irwin.
bam.
That has been a mystery for more than a decade.
Get out, faggot.
Who took her from her crib in the middle of the night? Could she possibly still be alive? Megyn Kelly is taking you back inside the case in a special new 5-part series, Megyn Kelly Investigates. She interviews baby Lisa's parents, other key players in the case, and through hidden cameras, brings the first ever comments from one of the men
I can't
at the
say
center
the
of the
other
story.
part
Deep
because,
reporting,
well,
expert analysis. Megyn
I'm
Kelly
not
investigates
black.
on the disappearance of baby Lisa. All 5 episodes are available now on the Megyn Kelly Show's YouTube channel and podcast feed, and you can also find out more at MegynKelly.com. I want to ask you this. So Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond issued the following statement after the release of this.
Oh, maybe I can get.
Says,
Maybe I
there
can
be
get
no
the.
tolerance for those who sexually prey on children. This case is all the more despicable because the alleged perpetrator was a pastor who exploited his
soundbite.
position. The victim in this case has waited far too many years for justice to be done. And with that, as you mentioned, his office indicated that the statute of limitations doesn't apply because Morris was allegedly not residing or inhabiting Oklahoma at any time. David, explain to us how that works.
Jesse, I did a deep dive on this because it's highly unusual for any state to be able to prosecute a crime like this that occurred more than 40 years ago. I mean, let's face it, whatever the statute of limitations is, it's not 40 years, okay? And so what happened here is the Oklahoma Attorney General, when they saw that Cindy had come forward, she saw that these allegations had merit to them. They dug deep. They tried to find a way where they could charge Morris. And what they came up with
from the
was
outside,
this archaic criminal statute
Yep, there you go.
that's been on the books forever. And what it said was, if you commit a crime in Oklahoma and you flee the state, the statute of limitations is tolled or paused until such time that you come back into the state of Oklahoma and we can arrest you. And it's truly, this was a law that was enacted back in the days of outlaw cowboys. You'd think Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, they'd come in, they'd rob trains, they'd flee the state of Oklahoma, they'd go to Texas or wherever. And that's why this law was put on the books. Well, now in 2025, they're going to use this same law to say that Morris committed the crimes in the 80s, fled the state of Oklahoma, and now that the victim has come forward, they can charge him with these crimes.
And to be clear, that doesn't happen. You don't see that in other states?
No. This is highly, highly unusual. I mean, they dug deep to find this statute, and it's going to be a huge fight. They're going to have a huge legal fight over whether or not this is a fair application of that law.
And by the way, talking numbers here, he says he faces up to 20 years in prison for each of the 5 charges. Your experience, I mean, what are we talking, 100 years in prison? If this goes to trial, he's convicted. You have the same.
Oh yeah, he's in there for life. No, he's done.
Points in time, different dates. Is it that he would?
Yeah,
that's what
he's
going to
be in there for the rest of his life once he gets fucking convicted.
They congregate together and say, 20 years in total, all runs concurrently together. I know we're getting far down the road here because we don't even know what the evidence would necessarily be. We'll talk about it, but is that fair to say that he could be facing 20 to 100 years in prison?
Well, he is facing, I mean, technically he's facing 20 years for each of the 5 counts, but in reality, if he's convicted, I think, most judges, most courts are going to sentence him anywhere from, 5 to 15 years if he's convicted on all 5 counts. He's facing a significant prison time, whether it's 5, 10, 15 years. He's facing some serious punishment.
So let me get into more of the specifics of the accusations, or what we think they were. So if we assume that CC in the indictment is Cindy Clemenshire, then let's try to put that together. So this all started in a blog post on the Wartburg Watch. It was alleged again, this was last year, that Cindy, at 11 years old, and her family met Mr. Morris at a youth revival back in 1981.
No, it's always, dude, it's always the fucking youth fucking, dude. Religious churches and youth groups, man. Fuck you. What the fuck?
Old, a traveling evangelist, married to his wife. But on Christmas night, December 25th,
why is it all religions, man? All religions are like grooming their fucking children to do some horrid shit.
Told her to close her eyes,
or trying to get them
touch her breasts and felt under
or doing
her
some horrid shit to the children. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
Everything. And that he repeated this alleged abuse until 1987 in Texas and Oklahoma.
Fucking leave the
and
kids
even a claim
alone,
that he tried
man.
to have sex with her when she was 16 years old. And she claimed both families knew what was going on, that she sought counseling
what?
at one point. And then in 2005,
both families knew? What the fuck?
But Morris's attorney replied that it was her fault for being, quote, flirtatious. She apparently asks for $50,000.
Yeah, I remember this guy. Yeah, this guy was the same guy who got in that kerfluffle with the lady. And now he's getting, and now he's got the, now he's got accused with this.
Now, Cindy apparently told USA Today about what she came forward and why she came forward now, saying, I've always just trusted that God's timing would take it wherever it needed to go.
Damn it. Fucking religious people, man.
This is her account. Assuming the statute of limitations is resolved in the prosecution's favor, and this case can proceed, this is still a very old case. Do you think that there are challenges for prosecutors?
Yeah, I mean, this is back in 1980, right? Well, I mean, it's going back all the way from 1980 to present, because that's how long it's been.
And that's when Cindy came forward in 2024.
Right, and there could have been a lot of stuff that happened throughout, right, to the present time, right? You could have gotten in other kerfluffles and whatnot. You could have done other.
You want me to get
could have done nothing.
Would you like me to lay out what he said? Let me lay this out. Yeah. So he apparently tells the Christian Post, and I was going to get to this later, but I'm glad you brought it up now. He tells the Christian Post, when I was in my early 20s, I was involved in inappropriate sexual behavior with a young lady in a home where I was staying. It was kissing and petting and not intercourse, but it was wrong. This behavior happened on several occasions over the next few years. In March of 1987, the situation was brought to light, and it was confessed and repented of. I submitted myself to the elders of Shady Grove Church and the young lady's father. They asked me to step out of ministry.
I have repented
ministry, which I did. Since that time, I've walked in purity and accountability in this area.
I have repented and investigated myself using a third-party investigation.
That he met with the female and her family.
Oh my God, you fucking
and according
people,
to CBS,
man.
he also allegedly admitted
Why are
during a
you
sermon in
guys weird?
2014 that he was, quote, sexually immoral. And we'll talk a little bit more about Gateway Church in a second, but David, again, going back to that, I mean, that admission, how can that be used against him? But it is interesting he never mentioned age.
He refers to her as a young lady when she was 12 when it started. So, you know, he's still not coming to grips with what he did, which was a sexual abuse. He's trying to portray this as, I cheated on my wife and I had an affair and it was wrong.
So, sounds like some people on Kick.
His admission absolutely comes back to haunt him. And I think truly that's why the Oklahoma Attorney General figured out a way to bring these charges against him, because they had his admission. Like you said, very, very difficult case if it's just he said, she said with nothing else going back 40 years. Really difficult case. But when he comes out and
why would he admit it?
I think he admitted it. I don't know for sure. I think he got bad advice and they said, hey, there's no way they can bring criminal charges against you at this time. So why don't you, do the right thing and say something happened and move on and put the, and this whole thing will die a slow death. And I think once he did that, the Oklahoma Attorney General said, oh my God, he just admitted it. How do we charge this guy? We have his admission.
Now I'm sure his lawyers will say it's not an admission, that everybody's looking at it the wrong way, and that this is an alleged admission, is alleged confession, not quite what they're saying. They might be saying it provides different context.
I mean, look, anything you say or fucking do will be used against you in the court of law, right? Even if it's on fucking social media. Don't even be careful what you wish for, right? Or fucking say.
In holding abusers accountable for their actions. We continue to pray for Cindy Clemishire and her family.
People will be sleazy about it.
And for all of those impacted by this terrible situation. Now, as I mentioned, when she went public with those allegations against Morris last year, again, he comes forward and makes this statement to the Christian Post, which we've been talking about. But there was fallout last year. So here's the thing. Gateway Church elders, they acknowledged that Morris had confessed to having an affair, but not that he abused a minor. and people ended up protesting outside the church. And originally,
so
the
he
church
did
said in a
have an
statement
affair,
on
but not the
WFAA TV that
minor
Morris,
abuse.
quote,
What
had
the
been
fuck?
open and forthright about a moral failure
What is this?
he had over 35 years ago. And, quote,
Drake?
there have been no other moral failures. Later on, after his resignation, the elders released a statement. Quote, we regret that we did not have the information that we now have.
I kissed a
For the sake of the victim, we are
17-year-old on
thankful the situation has been
stage.
exposed.
My
We
name
know
is
many have been
Drake.
affected by this. We understand that you are hurting, and we are very sorry. It is our
I
prayer
lost
that in
my
time,
lawsuit to
healing for all
the-
those affected can occur. According to USA Today,
What,
a law firm then
the
conducts an
Universal
independent
Music
investigation
Group?
into the
Right,
allegations, in
the
which they
fucking
reportedly collected
dumbass.
almost 800 gigabytes of data, reviewed thousands of pages of documents, conducted numerous interviews, and in the
Pedophile
end,
dumbass.
the church removed several elders. And Morris's own son and daughter-in-law and executive pastor, they stepped down. And then you have Elder Tra Wilbanks tell the congregation during a live stream service that there were one group of people that absolutely knew that Cindy was 12 years old when she was allegedly abused, and
Yeah,
another group
stupid-ass
that
people,
had
you get the
information,
fucking-
but essentially turned a blind eye. And he added, what happened to Cindy Clemenshire
What are we
was heartbreaking
talking
and vile.
about?
We denounce
We're
sexual
talking
abuse in
about
all of its
you
forms, and we feel
getting
deep sorrow
the,
for those who have been victimized by such
the
despicable
wood
actions.
chipper.
As an elder, I did not know the truth, and frankly,
Yes.
like many of you, my wife
You
and
and
I
the
are
wood
shocked,
chipper.
devastated, and grieving.
'Cause I don't
I'd like
trust
to
you.
express my personal compassion
You're like
for
a
Cindy
Fed
Clemenshire.
poster.
I can't imagine carrying a burden like that for so many years, and I want to say to you, Cindy, I'm so sorry. And according to Wilbanks, the investigation by this law firm didn't result in any further allegations against Morris, but you can see the fault. Now, David, I'm made of questions here. First of all, is it standard for an outside law firm to do an investigation like
How'd
this?
you know?
It is.
'Cause you're a
because if
fucking
this church
weirdo.
wants to have any credibility at all, and believe me, their conduct going back in time is despicable. And so the new leaders of the church realized, hey, we covered it up in the past. No matter what we say in 2025, no one's going to believe us. We need to get to the bottom of this. And what entities do, religious and otherwise, they'll hire an outside law firm to conduct a full-scale investigation where everyone has to cooperate. And now a lot of times they'll keep those findings to themselves. They'll keep it quiet. They won't announce it publicly. In this case, the church said, we're gonna kind of announce what came of this and that there was fallout and people were fired and disciplined as a result. I mean, good for them for doing that. Should have done it a long time ago.
What do you make of the departures?
I think this is, look, Jesse, this has been going on for decades, and we hoped it would have come to an end. Religious entities covering up the sexual crimes of their leaders, of pastors, of youth leaders, of people like Robert Morris. They knew in 1989 that he did this. They did nothing. They put him on a sabbatical for 2 years and then brought him back. They knew in 2005 he did this to a minor. And they kind of shrugged it off, and the lawsuit said, "Oh, if we're going to settle the case, it's got to be."
See, this is what happens when you get a third-party investigation to investigate you, and they don't do it properly.
When it all comes out, and they have nowhere to go, and they're back into a corner. Okay, now they finally come
shit
clean.
keeps popping
So
out.
it's sad that this still goes on.
And just to be clear, from a legal point of view, these are allegations. He hasn't been convicted, and I'm sure he'll put on a defense. But I am curious about this. When you hear about what Wilbanks said, that there was these two groups of individuals, some who knew, some who turned the other way, you see the resignations. Could anyone else face criminal charges?
Potentially, yes. But again, because we're talking about a crime that took place a while ago, it might be difficult. But just generally speaking, there are people that are called, child care custodians, just basically people who come into contact with children. If they learn of a crime against a child, almost every state has a law where they're mandated by the law to report
Correct.
it to the authorities.
I believe
And so if
California
someone,
has
an elder
those
in the
laws
church,
as well.
came across this information and learned that he had molested
Minnesota
a girl,
has those
that they were
laws
required
because it
to
happened to a
report it the authorities
dumbass
so the police can
fucking Minnesota
investigate. Now, look,
lawyer
there's a lot of
who did
complexity to
something
that
shady,
law.
apparently.
I'm not saying it absolutely applies to these facts here, but just generally speaking, yeah, possibly others could be criminally charged for not reporting it or not doing anything, and they definitely
Correct.
could be sued for not doing anything. That's just straight out negligence.
By the way, I wanted your perspective on this because I'm not really sure what this means. So it's been reported.
Yeah,
that,
so
Mr.
basically,
Wilbanks-
in certain states, if you do not actually report certain things, you will be held liable, right?
also indicated that Robert Morris made, quote, financial demands after this law firm probe, this law firm investigation, and that apparently led to litigation between him and the church. What does that mean, he made financial demands, if that's true?
That's interesting. I think maybe what it means is at some point he resigned, likely forced to resign, and he probably felt like he didn't deserve to go away, and probably made a demand like that he wanted compensation and benefits and whatever it might be to go along with that resignation. That's my best guess.
By the way, as you know, there's this spotlight now on the church. So anything that's happened in the last few years, people are looking at it a little differently, which brings me to one final point. The church apparently settled multiple lawsuits, actually really 2 lawsuits, before the accusations came out about Mr. Morris. So according to CBS, one case involved allegations that several church pastors covered up the alleged sexual abuse of a minor by a member of the congregation in March of 2018, including by not informing police. And then they apparently settled another lawsuit filed by an employee who claimed she was the victim of discrimination and sexual harassment by one of the church pastors who allegedly told her, quote, God gave her cancer to teach her a lesson. Now, David,
what the
unrelated
fuck?
to the Robert Morris case per
Huh?
se, what does this tell you?
What the fuck? God gave her cancer to teach her a lesson? Jesus fuck.
Serious issues, I mean, you just look at the Robert Morris situation. You're like, how in the world does that happen?
The
That is
power of
absolute
Christ
cover-up
gives
by
you
this church. You see
cancer.
the other 2
Jesus.
incidents or lawsuits that you just mentioned, and you just shake your head and said, what in the world is going on over there? But like you said, Jesse, there's going to be a spotlight that's going to be shining on this
God gave
church,
me
and we're gonna
cancer,
see,
bruh.
how they try to bury all these things and how they handled these very serious situations. And I guess they're going to have their day of reckoning as well.
One more point. Because the charges seem to only be related to one alleged victim, and because the law firm conducted this, what appears to be a very thorough investigation, does it seem to you that it's unlikely that there are additional charges for Mr. Morris with respect to other potential alleged victims? I mean, if that would have come out, it would have come out by now, right?
You would think so. I mean, here's what's interesting is that in my experience, most perpetrators don't just have one victim, right? They have multiple victims,
multiple.
Especially if we're looking at a 40-year time span.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially a 40-year time
over the
span.
last few years, especially
I mean,
when
just
Cindy
look at
came forward
gangbangers.
a year or 2
Within
ago.
like
And you would think
fucking
that
a
if there
month,
were
they
other
do
victims out
like
there, they
20
would likely have
crimes.
come forward by now, particularly when the law firm is doing a very in-depth investigation. I'm sure they had leads to follow up on and talk to potential witnesses and potential victims. So it is unusual that there are no other victims, and maybe there aren't. Maybe Morris, did this one time and swore he would never do it again and didn't. It's highly unusual, but it happens.
David Ring, we'll keep a careful eye out on this one. What a story. Thank you so much for taking the time and giving your excellent perspective, as always, sir.
There it is, the mega church. Thank you. Now we got this. This guy's got new charges. Fucking getting accused. We got the Abercrombie and Fitch guy getting caught up in trafficking. P. Diddy in trafficking. Fucking Kanye going off his rockers and showing off Bianca naked. It's just like, geez, what is Hollywood? What is going up with all these famous people? Epstein and shit, right? It's like, he didn't do nothing? I don't know, man. I don't know. From what Cassie was doing, I don't think she felt great getting tossed around and kicked on the floor, to be honest. How are you gonna defend that one? Cassie is capping. Okay. Jesus. Oh my god.
AC Shadows has officially released. It'll be interesting to see how the player count stacks up over the weekend. In the meantime,
yeah,
we've got a news update regarding the ongoing situation in Japan and the Japanese government, the diet talking.
I mean, there was the other instance with her under the covers and P. Diddy just being a fucking menace to her and intimidating her under the sheets. Remember that one?
About this game, which we discussed yesterday. The Prime Minister of Japan, Shigeru Ishiba, himself also condemning a...
You can't believe women. God damn it.
Shadows yesterday. That condemnation occurring specifically because in pre-release gameplay, Yasuke was seen as destroying or defacing the Itate Hyozu Shrine in Himeji Hyogo Prefecture, in which a local...
Look, I get it. It's not like an Amber Heard situation where she's not where she's definitely fucking lying, right?
An insult to the nation itself. When the
or the Blake Lively shit.
Iraq, we ensured they studied Islamic customs beforehand.
People get
Respecting
into
the
some
culture
shit.
and religion of the country is fundamental, and we must make it clear that we will not simply accept acts that disregard them. That comparison is particularly interesting because, for example, we can see a year
Blake
ago,
Lively,
a post on our Islam
she's
titled, "Ubisoft went
trying
full
to
Muslim mode in AC
steal.
Mirage."
She's trying to steal a movie from. What was his name? I forgot his name. Shit. Justin Baldoni. That's what it was. So Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. Justin Baldoni, movie producer, was starring in his own movie. Decided to employ Blake Lively as a protagonist or a side protagonist. And so when they were doing certain scenes, she didn't like it, I guess. And she didn't like the direction the movie was going. So she's trying to steal the movie from Justin Baldoni now. And she's trying to say that she was groped and assaulted by Baldoni and whatnot. And then you have Ryan Reynolds, right? Blake Lively's they're white. What are they married? I forgot. They're trying to target Baldoni. Her being groped? No. From the videos that was shown, no. And from all the information that they see in the court documents, it's pretty detailed. So, not from any side apparently. Well, Blake Lively's claiming it, so I don't know. Also, remember Deadpool? Fucking Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, he put Goodpool? Yeah, apparently Goodpool was supposed to be a satire of Justin Baldoni. Right. So if you were to look at videos of Justin Baldoni and how he conveys certain things and how he portrays himself, he kind of sounds like Goodpool. The one with the dog, the recent one with Jack yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine. The recent one with Hugh Jackman. Oh, Chris Evans was in there? I didn't know that. Oh, it's called Dogpool. Oh, there's a dog. Oh, okay. So there was a dog in it. Gotcha. But yeah. Yeah, this guy. Nice pool. Sorry. That's what it is.
Oh my goodness. Wait till you see Lady Pool. She is gorgeous. She just had a baby too and can't even tell. I don't think you're supposed to say that. That's okay. I identify as a feminist. You let
Yeah.
Post reading.
But I mean, he was basically making jokes about Justin Baldoni being a feminist and a femboy and
in Assassin's Creed Mirage, a video game developed by Ubisoft, you can make the NPCs stop playing music while the Adon is going on in game. The Adon is played 5 times in the game. Pretty cool. Showing this option in game that says adjust music for call to prayer.
Oh shit. Well, let me back up. I got sidetracked.
Ubisoft went full Muslim mode in AC Mirage. The post
Oh,
reading.
did they?
In Assassin's Creed Mirage, a video game developed by Ubisoft, you can make the NPCs stop playing music while the Adon is going on in game. The Adon is played 5 times in the game. Pretty cool. Showing this option in game that says adjust music for call to prayer. When off, street musicians stop playing during the call to prayer, but some game music may overlap with it. Turn on this option to stop all music during the call to prayer. A top comment in response to that post reading,
Yeah,
wow,
that's pretty
now
respectful.
That's respectful. A very interesting juxtaposition in comparison to the lack
Too
of
bad
rigor
they
that Ubisoft
didn't
has
do
shown towards Japanese culture. And I say
Too
that
bad
not
they
just with
fucked up
regards to the
Assassin's
Shrine
Creed.
situation, but numerous other controversies that have occurred
I think they
in
did
this
that on
game
purpose,
relating
too.
to just that. Ubisoft's lack of respect for Japanese culture. Of course, all
Yeah.
that made even more ironic with the numerous damage control statements Ubisoft has put out over the months leading up to AC Shadow's release, where they have attempted to say that they definitely respect Japan and the Japanese people. But as mentioned, the
The
current
Assassin's
news from
Creed
today,
movie was
just a few hours
terrible. There
ago,
was an
even at
Assassin's
that,
Creed
a
movie.
patch
I
released.
forgot about
The
that.
day one patch, including a number of fixes among some other things. But regarding this news and the capitulation to the Japanese government, Ubisoft
Oh,
has
the
actually
movie, the
patched
2016
temples and
movie?
shrines
Oh, yeah,
in-game,
this
making
one.
tables and racks in those
Yeah, I
shrines
forgot
slash
about this
temples
one.
indestructible. The reasonable conclusion is that this is
yeah, we
indeed
don't
a
talk about
response
it.
to how things were
That's
escalating
why.
in Japan with the diet and the condemnation of how AC Shadows was treating shrines. Another point I should have mentioned earlier from the local government official who initially raised the issue to Prime Minister Shiba is how they were worried that the treatment
That's gay. Don't find any of this gay at all.
That's why.
of the shrines in-game may also influence how people in real life treat the shrines, that it may lead to an increase in vandalism and destruction.
Oh, I thought you was
stuff
talking
like
about
that.
the movie?
Amplifying
No.
his concerns, however, was
God, no.
specifically the growing situation with tourists over in Japan and how they've been causing a nuisance, and that's putting it very lightly. So with growing issues of tourism causing destruction to local property and or disrespecting the local people of Japan in various ways, and then AC Shadows releasing and showing the destruction of the shrines and all that, yeah, they weren't having it.
Yeah,
so we'll see
AC
if Ubisoft's
Shadows.
recent action
Well, I
is
mean,
enough to
they
quell the situation with the
apparently they
Japanese
just
diet. That takes us
disrespected all
to
of Japanese
another situation
culture.
occurring in Japan
Apparently,
right now, a tweet going viral in
with
JP
the
Twitter, where Ubisoft is being mocked for their
with the
handling of cherry blossom
shrine.
viewing
Oh, I
in
mean,
AC Shadows. This tweet reading roughly via translation.
I think only
Sorry, but I couldn't
Japanese
help but laugh at the
people
beginning
care
of
about the
Assassin's
shrine
Creed
thing.
Shadows. It's cloth. I know it's cloth, but it looks like a blue tarp.
As an
I wonder
Asian,
if they're
fuck
using blue
AC
tarp to ignite
Shadows.
cherry blossom viewing. Lol. There's no need
This
to make it
fucking
blue.
guy.
And yeah, the image included showing the scene from AC Shadows with the aforementioned blue mats being used in the background. A response elaborating on this reading: in ancient Japan, blue is extremely
Yeah, I
expensive
mean,
dye
in the
and
other
pigment.
Assassin's
Even famous
Creeds,
artists who
you
were
would
patronized by
also
feudal
raid
lords rarely
tombs
used blue in their
to get
works.
equipment.
Even for the powerful samurai
And nobody
class,
cared
there's
about
no way they
that,
could
but
casually lay out a
for
blue-dyed
Japanese
carpet
people,
instead
or
of a
at
mat
least
for
the
a cherry blossom
politicians,
viewing. That would
yeah,
be
they're
something
not
like
so
the
happy
Imperial
about
Family.
that.
A different response from another Japanese user comparing Ubisoft's actions here to some AI-generated stuff. The post reading: Ubisoft,
And again,
hey AI,
the
generate some Japanese cherry blossom
the
viewing images for me.
Europeans in
AI, here you go. Ubisoft.
of
Oh, it's a blue
Ubisoft
carpet.
kind of
Just
screwed
copy
the
and
pooch,
pasted.
and
It's possible. Anyways, there's over 100
probably
responses, but
wasn't the
those two
best
were just
idea.
some of the most common responses on there. The OP would actually add on to his take, saying, "I'm not angry, don't worry. It's just that a blue rug at a cherry blossom viewing event looks so current that it makes me and the Japanese people responding to my post laugh. Blue sheets made of polyethylene have been around since this time. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Just thought you would find that amusing. Let me know what you think about that, as well as the day one patch from Ubisoft updating the shrine interactions, so to speak. And once again, we will also see how the player count
didn't
develops
they
over
also
the
put the
weekend.
Tory
As always,
Gate or
thank you for
something?
tuning in. I hope you
Did they
enjoyed
do
this
the
coverage,
Tory
and
Gate
if
thing,
you
or did they
please
take it
consider
out?
liking and or subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, and then you also had some people in Japan disrespect some actual shrines, like so it's like, yeah, yeah, it's a little touchy subject. It's a little touchy subject. I don't know. I give it. They shouldn't be begging. They had every chance to right the small things, and they didn't. I think Johnny Somali went behind the AC Shadows was behind the AC Shadows development. Oh jeez. Could be. Oh, look at Jack Doherty fucked up his life again. Man terrorizing West Hollywood apartment building. Oh, why don't you go terrorize fucking Hassan, please? Did you terrorize Hassan? Mr. Hassan with this $3 million fucking one family mansion? Okay. Yeah.
Banging on doors in the middle of the night, screaming at all hours and destroying property. Residents in a West Hollywood neighborhood say they are living in fear.
At the center of the chaos, a resident who is being evicted but is refusing to leave. Instead, he's...
Huh? Oh, fucking... whatchamacallit? Hassan. Fucking... terrorist sympathizer Hassan.
He's terrorizing his neighbors. John Fenolio live in West Hollywood with more on what residents call their neighbor from hell.
Hassan lives in West
only
Hollywood.
on 5. John?
According to Micah, that's right. Neighbors say that they are genuinely scared for their lives. They say all of this aggression is unprovoked. If we step out of the way and push into the building there across the street, you can see the first unit there. That is where the guy lives. The windows are boarded up because they have been smashed out. We are keeping our distance because we've seen this guy in question out in front of the building ranting and raving. Neighbors say that they've been threatened and are at their wits' end about this guy who just won't leave them alone or vacate his apartment despite an eviction order.
Oh, shit.
Neighbors say this man is terrorizing their West Hollywood homes.
He's thrown things at people. He's thrown rocks at our windows. He's broken every single window that exists in his apartment, which are many. The glass is broken out onto the street. He's attacked people on the street.
For safety reasons, they don't want to show their faces.
We are scared every day.
Yeah, he's threatened to kill people.
They've called the LA County Sheriff's Department for help numerous times.
The police keep telling us that there's literally nothing they can do. They'll show up, they acknowledge that it's unfortunate, they feel bad that it's not safe, but they leave every time without taking any action.
But most of them say they're afraid to press charges out of fear of retribution. The guy in question has lived quietly at the building located on the 1200 block of North Fairfax for several years. But a few months ago, something changed.
It was like a light switch. He went from being okay, albeit not a great neighbor, but not this. Not destroying the apartment, attacking people, attacking our door, our front door with a metal bar. So I don't know. It's we're not doctors. We're just having to live with it for the last 3 months.
An eviction order is pending. Neighbors say he's supposed to be out in a few days, but they worry he won't leave when the time comes and fear for their safety.
This cannot be okay. This cannot be accepted. We're living in fear and terror for 3 months now. It's unfortunate, and I just hope we can change some laws in this city because this is silly. This is crazy.
Yeah, that's actually pretty silly. Yeah. You literally have one of your neighbors terrorizing that whole fucking complex,
with this building
and the cops can't fucking
They're also
do
aware
anything.
of that eviction order.
What the fuck?
More on this story as it develops. We're live in West Hollywood. I'm John
That makes
Fenolio.
no
Sending it
fucking
back to
sense.
you.
Yeah, it's a wild one. John, thank you so much.
Gotta love California, hey? Yeehaw. Yeehaw.
These people are crazy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Didn't have heard that. I kept hearing that.
Oh, the fucking fires again.
Here comes the fire department.
Boom.
What have you done that warrants this? Because I see nothing that you have done except help our country.
Yeah, I mean, it's really come as quite a shock to me that there's this level of really hatred and violence from the left. I always thought the left, Democrats were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into dealerships, they're just, smashing up Teslas. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged, there's some kind of mental illness thing going on here, because this doesn't make any sense.
Didn't even draw the swastika properly. Didn't even draw the swastika properly. That's not even the swastika. Jesus fucking. Oh, god damn it. And they call themselves American.
We're out here because we're defending democracy.
And let me tell you, you do it to Tesla and you do it to any company, we're gonna catch you and you're gonna go through hell.
Yeah, they don't do it to Toyota. They don't do it to Honda. They don't do it to Ford. Right? They don't do it to Chevrolet. They don't do it to any of these other companies that have EV cars or hybrids. It's very strange. Very strange indeed.
Dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same.
New developments today in the vandalism incidents at multiple Tesla properties across the country. 3 people, including one from Oregon, now face severe charges in what Attorney General Pam Bondi calls, quote, a wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla. Today's announcement did not specify what federal charges were added. It does state each defendant could spend between 5 and 20 years in prison if found guilty.
Say that again.
Each defendant could spend between.
Well, I mean, given what they've been
years in
using,
prison if
yeah,
found guilty. Think about that.
because they're essentially
41-year-old
using
Adam
fucking
Lansky
gun.
here in
Well,
Oregon is
they're-
charged with illegally possessing an
right? They're using bombs, in a sense, or little mini grenades.
unregistered destructive device after he allegedly threw
Yeah.
a Molotov cocktail, or more than one of those actually, at the Salem.
That's basically assault with a deadly weapon.
You know what? Tomorrow I'm gonna tell that
You know how fucked up someone can get if you actually threw that at someone and it broke and shattered all over them? You'd essentially kill that person, setting them on fire. Because how the fuck are they gonna get all that alcohol and shit off of it? That shit's gonna kill them.
Judge,
If you don't have someone with
that was Spanky's booze.
someone with the like the chemical blanket or whatever that put that shit out, you're fucked.
Hush up, boy.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
Yep. Basically. Now Johnny Somali's back and he got more charges apparently. I guess we can watch that tomorrow. I gotta call it because I got stuff to do in the morning. I've got stuff to do. Wait, what? P. Diddy, what? Hold on, before we go. P. Diddy right hand one breaks her sign. Oh, she actually talks, eh? Yeah, apparently she's also the one who's been, right, egging on certain situations to basically being an accomplice. So the fucking aiding and abetting or some shit like that. Alright. I guess we can watch this one too. Later. But yeah. I'm gonna call it. I gotta go. I will. Oh my god, the ghost murder for hire. Dude, yeah, this shit was so insane. I can't believe it. Yeah, the fucking ghost hunter dude. You know, fucking try to get his wife tried to murder him. It was insane. Yeah, that's another insane one. Fucking women, man. Fucking women. Sometimes, man. Sometimes. Sometimes you want to smack them just because they're crazy. But you know if you do that, they're just gonna cry wolf and then you're gonna get fucked by the cops. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go. Alright, I gotta call it. I will be back later tomorrow.